Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today, this afternoon. Thank you so much for taking part of your lunch break with us. We are going to be learning about paying tips for paying down debt faster, how to be debt free. This is part of the financial literacy week that we have at Dallas Area Habitat. This webinar is being recorded, so in case that for anyone that is not able to view it, you are going to be able to go back and look at it on demand. Um, and if you have missed a couple of other webinars that we had in the past within this week, you are able to go to our website and view those on demand as well. Thank you so much for joining us today, and let's go ahead and get started so that we can get this valuable information. And if you have any questions, make sure that you submit those via the chat or the Q&A right there on your screen. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if I have access. Give me 1 second. All right, so like I said, we're going to be discussing about tips for paying down debt faster, how to be debt free. Okay, so before we get started, we have to know what we're going to be referring to. Okay, so within this discussion, we're going to be talking about what is debt. Okay, and then also debt and credit scores. Okay, like earlier in the morning, if you were in the earlier session with Aretha Higgins, she was talking about credit scores. So we're going to talk just a little bit about that more. And then also strategies to pay off debt. Okay, so before we even talk about any strategies, we have to go into detail about the other two items. All right, so in a nutshell, what is debt? Okay, so debt is money you owed by one party to another. So it's something that you borrowed from from an agency or a company, and that you're going to pay it on time. Okay, now debt can be a useful financial tool. Okay, or it can also be a tool that can complicate your life. And the reason I say that is because if you don't take care of it the right way, then it's going to complicate your life, and which is why we need those tips on how to pay those debt faster. Okay, now there are different types of debt. Okay, for example, we have secure debt and then unsecured debt. Okay, so secure debt, it's a debt that you take out where you have collateral. Okay, so let's say, for instance, you're purchasing a house. So that's a secured debt, a secure loan. Okay, versus if you have a credit card with Macy's. Now, whatever you purchase, obviously Macy's not going to come back and get whatever you purchase with that credit card. Okay, so that's the difference between a secure debt and unsecured. So with a secure, you have collateral. Unsecured, you don't have collateral. You also have credit cards debt. Okay, like I mentioned, there's different types of credit cards from different companies. We have medical debt. Okay, so if you go, and then most of the medical debt can be paid by your insurance. Sometimes you have out-of-pocket expenses that goes into your credit. And then you also have student loan debt. So if in case that you go for higher education, you will take out loans most of the time, and you will have this type of debt. And then you have personal debt, personal loan, which is just a loan that you take out to pay any expenses that you might have on your life. And then you have a car loan, okay, which is a type of secured credit card or type of secured debt. And then a mortgage. Again, it's another type of secured debt because you have collateral, meaning the house that you purchase will be your collateral for that. You also have business debt. Okay, so your business debt, it's basically for small businesses, and that's what keeps the small business running. So how does debt and credit scores? Okay, so manage your credit can affect your credit scores. Okay, and that's because like Aretha was mentioning earlier, the way that you take care of your everyday expenses or everyday debt on your credit, that's going to affect your credit scores. Okay, so now, are you ready to pay off debt? Okay, So the first step is to create a debt payoff plan. Okay, and this is what we're going to be discussing for the rest of the presentation. Okay, now if you are ready, I mean, it can be easy if you only have one card, right? The only plan you have to do is like, okay, how do I pay this card? But like if you're like most of us, they have more than variety or more than one credit card or more than one type of debt, then it could be hard. Okay, so that's when you start to look at what are the ways that I can be debt free. Okay, where you don't have to rely on having debt anymore. Now we're going to go into different types of methods to pay out debt. Okay, so the first method that we're going to discuss is called the Avalanche Method. Okay, so the Avalanche Method is also known as the debt stacking method. Okay, this is where every where you will pay your account and from the highest interest to the lowest interest. Okay, so the way it works is that you will pay the minimum payment of your accounts that you have. Okay, on every account you will pay the minimum, but then for that account that has the highest interest, you will be paying a little bit more whenever you're able to. Okay, so and then you will pay and then you continue to do that the next month until you pay it off. Okay, now once that account is paid off, you will basically repeat the process. Pay the minimum on every account, and then pay a little bit more on that account that has the next one that has the highest interest rate, until you are basically debt free. Okay, now it might take a while before you see anything happen. Okay, on this type of a method, and that's because, like I said, you're going to be paying on it over time, right? So it just might take a while. Okay, the pros about this type of method is that it will help you pay less interest. Okay, because again, you're going to be focusing on those accounts that have the highest interest first. Okay. Um, you also have the satisfaction of paying your highest debt off first, or your highest interest rate first. Okay, it is the most recommended method for those clients that have a lot of types of debts. Okay, so this is one of the most recommended. Now the cons about it is that it can take a while for you to see any progress. Okay, and that's because, like, again, you're starting from the top, so from the one that has the highest interest rate, and maybe the highest interest rate is the one that has the highest balance. So it would take a while for you whenever you see some progress on it. So don't be discouraged if you're going to be using this method. Just know that it's going to get there. Just continue to make your minimum payments on time on all the other accounts. On that one that has the highest interest, make more than what its minimum on that month. Okay. Now, in the contrary, you have the snowball method. Okay, so debts are paid in order from the smallest balance to the largest. Okay. Now, with this method, you aim to pay the smallest balance regardless of the interest. Okay, so this is just the one that has the smallest balance on what you owe. Okay, so the way it works, it's similar to the Avalanche method, where you make the minimum payments on all the accounts. Okay, and then once you identify that account that has the smallest balance, then you make extra payment on that one. Okay, until you pay it off. All right, and then you repeat that process until you pay all the other accounts. Okay, so now this is it's good because it has small successes at the beginning. Okay, so if you're one of those persons that likes to have immediate reaction to something, then this is probably going to be the best option for you, because again, it gives you satisfaction that you paid something off first. Okay, now on this type of method, if you're working on increasing your credit score versus paying down debt, then this is probably the best option for you, because this one is going to help you increase your credit scores because you paying off some debt. Okay, so if your goal is like again mentioned, if your goal is to just increase your credit score and not so much about paying debt, then this snowball method is probably the one that suits you best. Okay, now The the negative part about this method, it's that you will be paying more interest on this. Okay, and that's because you are focusing more on the actual balances versus the interest. Okay, so like again, it all depends on what your ultimate goal is. If your ultimate goal is to um, pay more less interest, then the Avalanche method would be the best option. But if your ultimate goal is to just help you increase your credit scores and and pay down some debt, then this snowball method can be a good option for you. And it's just like a snowball. The reason it's called a snowball is because the more you grow it, the really bigger it gets, right? So that will be a good method for you. Now, we also have what they call a balance transfer. Okay. So a balance transfer is also, it's transferred your credit card balance to a different card. Okay. Now, the way it works is basically paying credit with using credit. Okay. A lot of times you would hear financial advisors advise you not to do this, but it is a way. Okay. Now, it might not be the best option for everyone. So I would always suggest for you to speak to a financial advisor, or if you're buying a house, speak to your loan officer if you're in a program like the homeownership program with counseling program with Dallas Area Habitat. Speak to your counselor, because it is a way, but it's like saying, like I said, it's taking out paying debt with debt. Okay. Example for this, you would be using a high interest rate that can transfer to a credit card that has the lowest interest rate. Okay. So how it works is that you identify a credit card where you can pay, where you are paying interest on a balance and it has a higher interest. Okay. Decide how much money you can transfer. Okay. And then also apply for a transfer card offering with a 0% interest on a balance transferred. So you will be speaking to your credit card holders and see if they have a transfer account where you can transfer your debt from this card to this other card. Okay. Um, Now, if you already have a card, like I said, go ahead and use that and see if they have that option versus you opening a new card just to have a balance transferred. Okay. Um, Transfer your balances from the oldest a card to the new card that you have or the card that you're going to be using. Okay. And then also make sure that you pay off your new card to the terms of the card. Okay. But most importantly, always read the fine print. Okay. Because a lot of times there will be like fees that you will be associated to this type of card. So make sure that you read those fine prints and see what works for you. Another option that we have, it's called a personal loan. Okay. So a personal loan is like paying off credit using a personal loan with low interest rate. So what you would do is apply for a different for this type of loan, personal loan, that has low interest rates and possibly no fees. Okay. You apply this with any of your financial institutes. So that's like your credit union, your bank, anything that might have this type of loan. Okay. Um, Now you also have to pay your loan according to the terms of this agreement you're going to have with them. Okay. And then more requires that pay more than what is required. That way you can save money. Okay. So whenever you take this out, just pay more than what is required. Avoid avoid if you can't trust yourself. Okay. This is very important. Avoid if you can trust yourself. Otherwise, you would end up in higher debt. Again, because this is a loan that you're going to be taking out. So if you know yourself saying like, okay, I'm getting $20,000 on a personal loan to pay off debt, but then you already see that you have this $20,000 and you just go, instead of paying off your debt, you just go out and purchase other things, right? So now you're in more debt because you have an additional $20,000 on your credit. So if you can't trust yourself, avoid this type of tip that I'm giving you. And a lot of times your bank institutes, if you tell them that you're using this type of loan to pay off debt, they will ask you for your information to your credit cards that you're going to be paying off. Okay. Um, so that they can pay it off for you. And that's actually the best idea or option for you, because um, you will, they will pay it for you. Okay, so remember to keep your credit cards open whenever you pay your credit cards. Always keep it open. Okay, so even though you're paying them off, just keep them open. Okay, because that's going to continue to give you that credit history that you have on that credit card. Okay, so versus if you close it, it's going to close that credit history. So keep it open whenever you pay it off. Um, Check back on your credit spending, okay, or cut back on your credit spending. So again, don't overspend on what you're not able to afford, okay, and most importantly, be a responsible borrower. Now, the other option that we have is called a debt settlement. Okay, so in this type of on this type of option, those people that are already on the past due or on their credit card payments and can afford to make large one-time settlements to their creditors. Okay, you can do this on your own or hire someone to do this. Always do your research. Okay. Now, if you're going to be doing this on your own, what you would do is you will contact the creditors. Okay, so that's like whoever you owe the debt. Try to negotiate with them. Now, it might take some time, but also don't be afraid to dismiss the call and call back later. Okay, because a lot of times those negotiations might not be working to your benefit. So kindly just hang up and call back later. Right? Don't be rude and say like, I don't want to talk to you anymore and click. Just kindly, because they do make notes. So yeah, get a settlement agreement. So once you reach a negotiation with them, get a settlement agreement in writing saying that they are agreeing that you're going to settle for less, um, and you're going to pay it in full. Okay, and then also pay off the debt whenever you settle. Okay, and then keep that letter that you paid in full, because in the case that they don't report it back to the credit bureaus that you paid it already, then you could always send that letter to the credit bureaus and dismiss it from your credit. Okay, so that's if you're working doing it on your own. Like I said, again, you could do this on your own, or hire a debt settlement company. Okay, so those are like the credit fixers or the people that help you fix your credit. That's ultimately what they're going to be doing. Okay, now I want you to do your research on those companies. Okay, if it looks too good to be true, it is too good to be true. Okay, so always do your research. Okay, um, once you do your research, contact the companies and ask about their general process. It's like, okay, so what is the general process looks like if I have this much debt? Okay, now the settlement company will handle the communication between your creditors and yourself. Okay, so you don't have to talk to your creditors; they will talk to your settlement company. Okay. Now, ultimately, a lot of times your settlement company will open an escrow account. A lot of y'all probably know what an escrow account like. It's always like home ownership. But escrow account in this case, it means like where they're putting money aside, or you're putting money aside to pay your debt off. So in the case that your debt settlement reaches an agreement with a creditor, then they just take money from that account and pay it off. Okay. Now, the settlement companies receive settlement offers, and like I said, they pay it off to your creditors. A lot of times, your creditors will be, I guess, settling with you for less than 50% of your original balances. So that's ultimately what you want. Every time, whenever you're doing a debt settlement, you don't want to pay the actual amount, right? Um, that you owe. Um, Now, a lot of times that's probably going to be the only option, but that's not ultimately your goal. Your goal is to settle for less than what you owe. So now, whenever you settle, a lot of times your companies, the companies that you owe money to, will come back and say that you owe this in your taxes, basically, and they will give you like a tax a form so that you can file it in your next year taxes. Okay, so we'll see if this will be an option for you. Now, the last option that we have, it's called bankruptcy. Okay, when everything else fails and you don't have any other options. Okay, bankruptcy can be a fresh start for you. Okay, now this should be the last resort. Okay, which is I have it at the end, and that's because bankruptcy can devastate your credit. Your credit. So, what I would suggest for you to do is that before you even consider bankruptcy, consider any other the other type of process that we have, because there might be another option for you. Okay, whenever you file bankruptcy, there's two types as it shows here. There's Chapter 7 and Chapter 13, and I'll discuss in just a second. Okay, but the way it works is that if there's going to be an option for you, examine your debts. Okay, so examine what you owe, and if you're not able to make those payments, like if you came to the conclusion, like, yeah, even if I sell this and try to make more money, I'm not going to be able to pay this off. Okay, so then at that time, do your research on bankruptcy attorneys. Okay, in your area. Now you are able to do a bankruptcy on your own. However, it is not recommended. Okay, so do your research on bankruptcy attorneys. Okay, your attorney will ask you to submit all your debts. Okay, and once they do it, when you submit all your debts, your attorney will file the paperwork with the authorities to file the bankruptcy. Okay, like I said, there's two types, which is Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Okay, Chapter 7 bankruptcy, often you will require to surrender some of your property. Okay, so whatever you might have, for example, if you have two cars, they can probably leave you one and you can surrender one. And that's so they can start paying off some of that debt that you owe. With Chapter 13, it allows you to keep your property, but you have to make payments for a period of 3 to 5 years. Okay. Like I said, it is recommended only to do it with an attorney. Okay, if you're going to be filing bankruptcy, always speak to a HUD approved counseling program that does bankruptcy counseling. Okay, and I mentioned this should be your last resort. Okay. In summary, okay, debt can feel overwhelming. The best approach is the one that fits your needs and your goals. Okay, do your research, but the best way to pay off debt is to change your habits and follow a household budget. Okay, so ultimately, the reason that you're in debt is that's because you didn't have the savings, you didn't have a budget that you were following to pay that on time. So, ultimately, you want to change your habits. Okay. Later today, we will have a class with called Debt Management with Core America. Hopefully you're able to join us at 6 p.m. Later today. And then I will take some questions if anyone has any. Let me stop sharing.
Porfirio, we had a question come in from Facebook.
Okay.
And the question is, how does having little or no debt affect your credit score?
How does having little or no debt affect your credit score? So your ultimately, what lenders want to know is if you have debt, are you able to make it on time, right? So most of the credits, the lenders they want to know, can you pay at least 3 accounts on credit on time? Okay, so it is recommended to have at least 3 types of credits on your credit. But if you don't have it right now and you're in the home buying process, don't change anything that you have until you speak to your loan originator or your financial advisor or commercial counselor.